Hello and welcome to the I Trained You podcast show, whatever you want to call it. I'm Coach Brandon. I'm here to deliver a wonderful hour of time with some incredible people with some incredible topics. To give you a little background on me, I am a skill development trainer located in the Washington, D.C. area. And I've been doing this now for over 30 years. The beauty is that as a collegiate athlete, all the things that were necessary for me to do everything in this space has been incredible. I never wanted to give it up. So when the last time I laced up my shoes as a college basketball player was over, I decided that I would take a little bit of a break, and then when I got back in, I was going to go in and make an impact in the lives of others. And what I realized was not only making an impact in the lives of others, I was creating some incredible relationships, some friends, and so much more. And so, in doing so, we thought we would come out with our inaugural show and really talk about some of the topics of skill development. There are a lot of skill development trainers out here. And unfortunately, I think that when I got started in 1993, 94, I really didn't have a lot of competition. And so the deal was that actually people resisted because most people were out there training kids for free, or they were coaching kids for free, but it really wasn't a specialty the way you would get with tennis and gymnasts and those types of things. But what happened was a parent said to me, "Listen, I will pay you if you will help my son to become like you." And I said, "Oh, wow, that's an incredible compliment." And so the young man went from a 2.5 to a 3.6. He went from averaging 6 points a game to 17, and the rest is history. And so this company of mine has changed many faces many times. It's been three name changes. We really love I Trained You. It used to be called Dynamic Sports Management. It also had Dynamic Success Management. It had Dynamic Scholastic Management, and that was fantastic too. And we started off calling each other Triple Threat, which was academics, athletics, and attitude. So that's a little bit of a history. And as we do this show more, we'll talk more about the journey. But what we want to also remember is that this is about the kids. And so on this show, we will never say anything negative about a child. We will never say anything detrimental to their success. We will talk only in the positive. As skill development trainers and coaches and all the rest of the stuff, we're not out here trying to pick a kid apart or a player apart. What we're trying to do is give examples of what could possibly be happening in a player's life that could make things turn around. And the triple threat kind of attitude, academics, athletics attitude, the mind, body, soul, the intellectual, physical, and emotional. There's so much that goes on with an athlete. So to sit over there and think because they're having a bad game or anything else, that's just not fair to that particular kid or player. It could be on any level. And I've worked with NBA players, WNBA players, some of the top college players in the country on down. And it has been a fantastic ride and a journey. And so everybody wants to experience greatness when they step on the floor, but sometimes they get in their own way and they just don't know how. And so our job is to give you the specifics of what you need to get better, but also to help you to understand that there's a time and a place for everything. And so it may not be your time immediately. There might be some gaps that need to be filled in. And so you have to learn how to trust the competency of the coach or the trainer or the mentor that's in your life to make you go from being good to great. Someone once said the person that takes you from 50,000 to 500,000 is not the same person that takes you from 500,000 to 5 million. So you may have different trainers, you may have different coaches, you may have different people that influence you. All that is fantastic. But the one thing that you have to remember is that you take you into every journey with any relationship with any coach you have. So if you can't get out of your own way, then it's really tough for someone to make an impact. And then you have to choose the right kind of person to be able to help you to make that impact. And today we have Nysear Byrd, who actually works with I Trained You, and who also is a fantastic young coach that will probably end up being, on television one day because he's really, really good at what he does. And the deal is that, he's in this for the kids. And then we have Brad. Brad Pinchback is an amazing gentleman who I've had the chance to have many friends that know him and respect him in the community. And it's weird because a lot of times people say, "Oh, you have somebody that's on your show that's actually, your competitor." But no, we're not. There are over 1 million kids that are playing high school basketball alone in the United States. 1 million. I can't see that many kids. He can't see that many kids. We have another gentleman, Jimmy. Jimmy Lee can't see that many kids. So it's not like there's enough to go around. But if you're really in this to make an impact, then that has to be the focus. And so as we build this conglomeration of what we're doing here with this community, I'm not saying I trained you community because it's not my community. This is all of our communities out here. And what does that actually mean? That means that these kids that are out here, if they can learn better from someone else that inspires them to apply skill sets. I told my kids this morning or this afternoon, I said that courage is the ability to act in the face of fear. Every time you step out on that floor, you may not act or want to act like it, but you've got to have some apprehension. Are you going to play the best you possibly can? Who is this guy that's right there in front of you? Are you going to be able to do all the things that you want to do and score the way that you want to score? That's a challenge. And you have to learn how to train yourself to be ready for that. And so we have what's called Leadership 24. There are 24 principles of leadership that you guys have to learn in order to be effective. And so parents understand that if your son or daughter is withdrawn or they don't engage or do all the rest of the stuff that you think you did when you were a kid, that's okay. But guess what? If we don't start to address those things and change them so that they become a better person, how can they become a better player? We're not saying they're a bad person, but we all have improving to do. So let's set some of the benchmarks for what that would look like with leadership. So as you get to know our program and as you get to know our extended family, just know that we're all on one accord. And so with that being said, I want to bring on Nysear Byrd. Nysear, are you there? Let's see where he is. Let's see.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right, good stuff, buddy. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks
Well,
for having me. Thanks for having me.
well, listen, you're a part of the growth of this channel and you're a part of the growth of the lives of many kids, including my own. And so I just want you publicly to know how much we appreciate you, my family and I. And, we're here for you. And thank you.
I
So,
appreciate you.
so the way this show is going to work is we're going to set up some topics and we're going to chit chat a little bit and maybe bring to light some of the things that parents may be going through. And so today's topic is how to pick a trainer. And so, Nysear, we're going to bring on Brad. Brad, you there, buddy?
Yep, right here.
What's up, man?
What's going on with
Brad hasn't played basketball, Nysear, in 20 years. I think I can take him.
you?
If it's been 20 years, buddy, I got a chance, man. I got a chance. I got this bad back, but it's all right.
Well, I got bad everything.
That's all right.
Knees, back, all of it. So,
Well,
yeah,
I really
it's
appreciate
been a minute.
I appreciate you being on the show and really being on this journey. And thank you for helping so many kids and their lives and stuff. It's fantastic. So for as much as we can be a part of each other's lives, I want you to know that we welcome you and appreciate you. So,
Yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm.
all right. So listen, one of the topics, let's just bring this up. When we talk about skill development training, right? Like the first thing a parent is going to say is, oh, my son needs a trainer, because people feel like a coach is not enough. And so you got a coach that might be the assistant coach that might be training on the side and all the rest of the stuff. But what do you guys really think that when you're trying to pick a trainer, what kind of trainers are out here? First of all, you go into history, Brad, you've been at this game as long as I have.
Mm-hmm.
What is the first thing, you try to tell parents or whatever when looking for a trainer? What do you tell them?
Well, number one, I describe myself as a full-time trainer. You have a lot of people kind of, dabbling into this game part-time, like that. And, I've been full-time for about 17, 18 years now.
Impressive.
So, you kind of want a guy that's committed. You also want a guy that their style of training translates on the court. And I think I've shown through my track record that, that has happened for my players. I've worked with, I'm like you, Brandon. I've worked with pros, both on the men's and the women's side. Worked with top college players as well. But I got into this business, honestly, my why was to help maybe that marginal kid that, just with his direction. A lot of these kids are, it's not even like a talent issue with some of these kids. Like for instance, I see some of these guards, and including some area guards that have talent and have ability, but they're not vocal enough to play at the next level. They don't want a quiet, guard at the next. A guard is a leadership position. Like you spoke on leadership earlier. A guard is a leadership position, so they don't want, someone who's scared to elevate their voice and be a leader on the court, playing that position for them.
So Nysear, when you think about like, and you're a school teacher, right? So and you're a coach. So when you see these parents out here and they're looking for more, right? Do you get scared for them because you know that, like Brad, when I first started in 93, 94, like there was only 2 other trainers out here that really were making any noise besides me, right?
Right.
So now everybody's a trainer. Everybody's trying to get on that opportunity. If they can get a gym, they're a trainer. And there's really no qualifications that you need to train, but just to say you played elementary school basketball. That's all. Like I played in elementary. I was the man. I averaged 400 points in elementary school. So Nysear, what are your apprehensions as a coach when you hear that these parents are out here looking for skill development training?
I mean, as a coach at a school, my feeling toward it would be like, I wish we had more time. But as now being a coach, which I trained you, when parents are looking for more, the first thing I'm thinking is, why aren't they asking me what else can I offer?
Yeah.
Because we do have this thing going, and I think that if I'm really considering somebody as a good trainer, the first thing I'm going to think about is skill versus drill.
Yeah.
So I believe that a good trainer is more focused on skill development than just drilling something in a student.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually looked up the definitions just to kind of get to what I'm really trying to say. So like drills are a repetition of an exercise or of an act to teach or train a skill, while skill development is the process of acquiring, improving, and applying skills to perform tasks. So I feel like we do a little bit more of digging in deep and helping students understand why they're doing something, rather than, okay, just put your dribble on your right foot, step back once, and just giving them general movements and just having them constantly do it. We're like, why do you think you're doing this? We're telling them the best time to use it from different closeout or defensive. So I think skill versus drill is something I really think a good trainer balances.
There are many ways that kids can be successful, Brad, right? And you could have, like, when I played in high school, I went to 2 different high schools. I was, it wasn't normal for you to transfer high schools back in the 80s. But I went to St. John's and I quit. And then I ended up leaving and going to Flint Hill, and they were the #1 team in the country. And so I had no preconceived notions that I was going to play. But the way we did it back then is that you had somebody that was working you out or working with you. And I feel like today, when parents are trying to find a trainer, they really are just looking for who's got the most Instagram views, who's got like the name player, like, oh, I'm working with this NBA guy and he's there at the gym with me. And so do you find that that when you're training or when you engage with a parent, that they're not really asking you, what are you teaching my kid? They're just glad to give you the kid, or they just think, I mean, do they really go deep in terms of their understanding of what you're offering?
You want me to get that one, or
I want you to take that.
oh, okay. Yeah, kind of like what we were discussing with Jimmy Parker earlier today. You know, different parents are going to look into it, look at it differently. Say you've got a kid, you know, you've got somebody that's already in the parents' ears. Well, they're going to want somebody that's trained, um, you know, a player with some accolades, maybe a player that went professionally, maybe a player, you know, multiple players in college. They're going to want you to kind of have that. Some parents, they're not.
Is that important?
Not to
Important, Greg?
not to me, because at the end of the day, it's about getting the player better, the player that you're training better. That's all it is. And does it translate? You know, you see a lot of guys, they can make a player better in within the workout, but then you go and watch that player play in the game, and for whatever reason, it's either not translating or it's slow to translate.
But why do you think that is? Hold that thought. Why do you think that is, Nysear? Why is it? Because for me, when I think about, because you're talking about kids don't apply the skills that
Mm-hmm.
you call them in the workout, and then when they go to the game, they freeze, right? And what I tell parents is that that's because of what we call fear factor. You're either going to
Mm-hmm.
fight, you're either going to flight, or you're either going to freeze. And these kids panic because they haven't, in my opinion, they haven't got enough confidence by doing it over and over and over again in a read and
Yep.
react environment, that it becomes a part of their subconscious. But that's how I feel. Nysear, you take the floor. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I totally agree. Like, it's a fear factor, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a freeze. I mean, I guess it is a freeze, but it's like for a student, they're not like they're lacking so much confidence that when they get in a situation where they could use it, they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Also, I think that, like you said, being in a constant read and react environment, I think they need to like gradually be able to get to running it full speed 5-on-5. So maybe like starting with a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3, where they're able to apply the skill, so they can get more comfortable with it. And then we build it up to a 5. They get comfortable with that. And then we might see more skills being used in game that we've developed in training.
So to me, you know, I'm not going to bash AAU. Like, to me, a game is a test. Every game you play is like a test you're taking, a math test, English test, whatever. And you're basically seeing if you've mastered skill sets. Like, we have a creed, Brad, and the creed is become a subject matter expert first, then you become the best version of yourself, and then finally you surround yourself with people who inspire you. But in order to surround yourself with people who inspire you, have to be inspiring yourself, right? And so when you take that to basketball, you have to be good. Like, I understand that, you know, I've been in the game for a while. There's lots of people who've been in the game doing this, but they haven't really done anything, right? They're just active in the space. And I do think you should have a little pedigree. Like, I want my kids, like I got 2 kids playing basketball. I want whoever they're working with to have been in the trenches a little bit, to know what it's like to get hurt, to know what it's like to be successful, to know what it's like to win under duress, to know what it's like to hit the game winning shot, all the rest of that stuff, because there are stories, there are bravados, there are things that build confidence within the kid just by the mentor that's in their life. Would y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Totally. Yes.
You know, so for me, when I think about this AAU circuit, it's tough because these kids get caught up in, I want to play for, this super team, that super team. And there's no knock on that. Like, I played on the super teams when I was a kid, but at the end of the day, those super teams need to win and they need to play all of these games. And so that kid that's sitting number 6 on down is not touching the basketball the way they would if they were actually in with us working on their skills, Brad. They're
Absolutely.
that 2 hours that they were cheering for somebody else and clapping, they could have been with 2 balls in their hand, really working on some neural awareness with their subconscious that they're not able to do. And so when I look at, I want my kids, or all of them that are playing for me, to be courted by these super teams. But all the traveling and everything else that's going on, is that like a distraction, guys, to their success? All of these games, like in Europe, they say it all the time, like, for every 6 days of practice, you'll have 1 day of games. Here
Yeah.
is like you'll get 6 games to 1
One.
day of practice. Like, but the world has caught up to us with skill development. Look what happened with the USA and who was it, South Sudan? Like that
Yes. Yes.
was the game, right? So they're not getting the game reps. They're using like this time to really develop skill sets. So what are your thoughts on the competition for people out here who are trying to build their book of business, right, to make an impact on these kids, but they're overscheduled?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta know how many kids you can work with at a time and continue to get great results. You mentioned about the overseas game and all of that. I was on a call last week with a kid that I used to coach, and when he pops back and forth to the States, I still train him, but he's in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's grown up in Germany. I coached him when he was a young player, but now he's in Germany, and we talked about some of those differences. Those conversations. When I reach out to people like him, when I reach out to people that are kind of involved in our game, and they're in other countries, like a Tamir Goodman.
I remember
You
Tamir.
probably know Tamir. Brandon, are you familiar with Tamir?
You talking about the Jewish Jordan? Was that
Yes,
Tamir? Yes.
yes,
He's still playing?
yes. No, no.
Oh, okay.
He has a lot of camps, clinics, stuff like that over in Israel. But
Nice.
when you reach out to those people, you may get like a different perspective. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be like, if we're doing a drill or we're doing an action or we're doing something to increase a player's IQ in a particular situation, help them to make more spontaneously accurate reads,
Yeah.
uh, if you will. We have to be able to tell that player why we're doing this. We're doing this because of this, this, and this. We have to, we have to be able to explain why.
And
That would be one of the signs, as a parent, that I would be looking for. Make sure the kid has a good understanding of the game.
so so like let me just jump in here because I had a kid
Mhm.
the other day. This was, I'm at a couple locations, but so I'm at my one location, and so this kid is there, and so I said, how do you get better? I said, do you have a trainer you're working with? And he says, no, I don't have a trainer that I'm working with. Um, I I follow YouTube and Instagram trainers all over the country, and I use what they're teaching, and that's what I come in and I work on. And I said, wow. So just it reminded me of that, Brad, when you
Mhm.
said that, because you can't ask that Instagram why. You can't ask that
That's true. That's true.
if if I did this correctly, if I'm, moving in the same type of direction and patterns. So I really believe that the kids and the parents who are out here, they're kind of misinformed about this whole YouTube and Instagram because it doesn't really design what's needed for the individual player, but they don't really realize that it's a marketing tool, like not a teaching tool. That's the way I see Instagram and YouTube. You can't tell me that I could watch YouTube and become a surgeon. You just,
No.
just can't tell me. So why would I be able to watch Instagram and YouTube and think that I'm going to be an amazing basketball player? You talked about recognizing reads. In our program, we call it pattern recognition theory. And what that means is that the pattern window opens and you have to have the skill that has the highest probability of success. And you have to put that inside of that window before it closes. And so that's how we frame it for the child, right? And so what happens is that when you don't get to the highest probability of success because you freeze or you're panicking in that moment because that defender's all big or got a name or whatever else, then that tells you a little bit about yourself. But the whole idea for me is that once I give you that read and that pattern recognition theory, you know what the highest probability of success is, then I want to test you so we can get the processing speed down from the time that the window opens to you putting the skill in. Because you and I both know, Nysear, we talk about this all the time, that the NBA players anticipate the window and sometimes create the window, a lot of times create it, and put the skill in because they created the window.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing, right, Brad?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's hard for me. So when I hear these parents and they got this trainer here, nothing against any of these trainers out here, but I just feel like it's the wrong conversation, guys, that the parents are trying to create with these people. It's their kids are not getting better. And you can't get better than another kid. Now, kids are good and they can shoot. I mean, this year we were out, Brad, we were at a seventh grade Durant workout last week. And those kids could boogie.
Yeah.
But we know deep down that all of those kids are not going to make it.
Right.
It's going to run out. And why is it going to run out? It's because they're not going to be able to make those pattern reads as other kids get bigger, stronger. They're not going to be able to make those reads that you were just talking about.
And you've also got to look at, all right, you're talking about seventh grade, the ages that some of these kids are. You got kids that are going to hit crazy growth spurts after seventh grade, and you got kids that are only going to grow 2-3 inches.
Yeah.
And that's, how do you navigate, that situation as well? Because, I mean, some of these kids are thinking, they're going to grow a whole lot more. And the reality is, maybe you're not. And maybe, yes, you're playing well for your particular AAU team, but if you're a smaller kid and you're playing off the ball, it might be time to find a team where you can play on the ball.
Yeah. So you're talking about, like, a lot of kids don't understand. Role players are not going to make it to the next level. It's just so difficult. So if you can't become a dynamic player, then you're kind of like, unless you're playing on those top teams, you're not really going to get the opportunity to play on the next level. You've got to be dynamic. You got to be able to have the ball in your hands, like you're saying, and be to, at the end of the game, know that everybody's happy you took the last shot. That's how it's got to be. Or you're going to be the one that brings us back because we're down by 15 and we give you the ball comes through you. So I think one of the big things that we have to do, guys, is we have to help these kids to develop confidence in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you play all of these games with AAU, it's about getting it right. And what I want the kids to do is I want them to get it wrong enough times that we can recognize where we're headed so that we get it right is locked in forever. And that's what I feel like a kid has to develop confidence in themselves. Well, first of all, they got to develop confidence in us, right? But then they got to develop confidence in themselves. And then we have to be very careful because when they go back to the coach, if the coach doesn't have confidence, then it's like the cancer reinfects that kid over again. And it's just hard to break that cycle. What do you think about that, Nysear?
I agree. I mean, can't say it any better than that.
Nah, no doubt.
So
I mean, we all have coached at, I've coached in high school. Brandon, you coach, and Nysear, you're a coach as well. What I have found is that, my relationship with coaches, throughout the DMV, I think it helps me because I don't hesitate to call a coach and say, "Hey, I'm working with your player. What would you have me like? What do you really want to see him get better at to better fit what you're doing with him in your program?" So we kind of, we may emphasize that part first. We're still going to work on other things, but the emphasis is going to be what is going to help this kid in his most immediate future. So, I think having a relationship with the coaches helps tremendously because you got a lot of guys, okay, yeah, they're training a bunch of different skills, but if those kids are not going to be using those skills in the actual game with, a particular coach and a particular coach's system right away, that may hurt the kid as much as it helps the kid.
So let's dive into that. I don't know if you say so, but let's dive into that. So let's say you got a kid. So I'm 6'6", and I might be able to jump out the gym. So what happens with this team that I'm on? I need to be a guard to play at the next level, right? But they need me as a big. They need me underneath. They need me only guarding the bigs, which is cool. But I'm not developing the defensive reps of playing out on the perimeter and being able to handle that speed. So how do you handle that, guys, when you know that a kid is not really getting what they need? They're just giving the coach what the coach needs. That's tough.
You got that, Nysear? I got it. I'm good.
I mean, if I'm training a kid that's 6'6" and he needs to be a guard or even a wing, and his coach wants him to be a big and he cannot conform to anything that we are offering to the kid, I'm pretty sure I have a good relationship with the family, so we can talk about moving on.
Well, we're not trying to get the kids to transfer. There's no portals now.
What are you talking about? A high school transfer portal?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. He's going to the portal early. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, all right, say I got a kid that, like I say, I mean, it goes back to what I said before. If you got a big 6'6" for some programs is a big kid. So what's happening is a lot of these younger big kids, they're bypassing all of the interior work and they're going straight to being a big win. You hear what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? By that, they're going straight to being a big win. So since they're bypassing all of the interior work, in a lot of cases, even though that coach has them stuck inside and all of that. He could be being successful playing inside for that coach while he continues to build his perimeter game that's going to make him successful in the future when he has to go to college and be a wing.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say, and what I'm saying too, is that we're partners with the parents and the kids.
Yes.
So the coach is going to stop coaching after that season. May not be high school season, like you said, going into college. It could be they're playing on the freshman team,
Right.
going on the JV going on the varsity, freshman going to varsity, eighth grade going to high school. So at the end of the day, we have to have a vision for the kid that might be bigger or different. And we have to program those skills into the player. So when the time comes, they're ready and they have the confidence and they're not in fear factor and shock mode and freeze. We want
Right.
them to be able to be, look, I'm comfortable with this. I just for that coach, he needed me to play the big. Or that might translate into a rebound, some transition work that you're able to focus on and test. So I feel like there's a lot of wonderful opportunity to help a kid to grow in any environment. The frustrating part is that when these kids are trying to get exposed and they're trying to get looks for the next level, you have a lot of people that end up freezing those kids out because they don't have that vision. And that's where we have to be very careful as, secondary mentors to these kids outside of the coach so that we're not offending those coaches. And we're like, look, we are here to work with you, like you said, Brad. What is it that you want to see from, Brandon? Like, I give you an example. When Nysear and I first met, my kids go to his school.
Okay.
And so he was the coach. And Nysear, if you remember when my son first got there, he was tall. You looked at him as a big.
Yeah.
And so that was no big deal, but all I did was make a recommendation. I said, if you want him to participate more in the play, then you might want to have him just dribble the ball a couple of times, pass it to the guard, and then go on down. He'll be happier than a June bug, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you want the kids to be connected to the possession each time. And so how do you get that? And so then last year we said, okay, we're going to work on him having point guard skills and bringing the ball down, calling the offense, making the first pass. And then because he's the tallest, he can go post up. But now you're giving him some dynamic opportunities and look at how far they've come, because you got two of them.
Yeah.
And the other one is a heck of a shooter, but he's tall too. And we would have put him in the post, then you would know he got some games 3-4 threes in a game. And that's a nice experience. And that gives the kids a future. So my whole thing is when parents are evaluating, they need to ask some tough questions. So one of the tough questions is, as we talked about earlier, what's your resume, coach? And then number two would be, what is your philosophy on training? Number three would be, what type of tangible things are you going to be working on with my kid that I can see over the course of a week, a month, a year, so that we can know that, look, you might be laying the foundation. They might not be ready to actually, you're not a psychologist. I'm not a psychologist. Nysear, you're not a psychologist. But at the end of the day, if we educate the kid and it's programmed in, when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will teach. Or when the player is ready to, have their domination party, all of that stuff will be in there and it will be natural. So those are some of the things. Brad, what are some of your key things that you think parents need to be looking for in a trainer?
How you interact with the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, from day one, your personality with that kid. Because if you're not clicking with that kid from just a personal standpoint, at some point down the road, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So, at that point, I mean, for me, I have so many friends involved in this game. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend somebody to, maybe a player who, um, for whatever reason, our personalities just didn't click or
Yeah,
what have you.
we've
I
seen that, haven't
wouldn't
we?
even hesitate.
Nysear, we've seen that, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes, yes. We can name a few right now. No, but that's right. So we talk about being on the right frequency with a kid and a parent, and it's okay if we're not, because like we said, I mean, it's just not the right fit, and I don't want to ever feel like I'm in this for the money for the kid. I want to be in a relationship with this family where we feel like we're partners and we're going at this together. And as soon as I feel like it's transactional or it has to be transactional, then I'm looking for my exit strategy, because that's not the relationship I want with any child. And the child deserves better. If I feel like I'm going to work, then I'm not going to give them 100% of me. And so, Sir, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you also got to know how to deal with the tough days. So like parents are trusting you with their child, and every day is not going to be easy. I mean, some days the skills and the drills are tough. So how can you deal with my kid is also another question. Um, what are you going to do when things get tough? Are you going to overreact and snap at my kid, or are you going to help them adjust and get through whatever mental hump they have that day for them to feel like they were successful? Um, so I just think a lot goes into what's right for a kid and what a trainer could do to be right for your kid. But I think that's important.
Guys, it bothers me that we only have a certain amount of time with a kid. And I always say that the kids that come to me, we need to offer more so that they're thinking about us when we're not actually working with them. So when they're in that game or that practice, because if a coach is yelling at them and it's demoralizing and they're not following those leadership principles, like right now, I'll just tell you guys, we're at number 8 right now of our leadership principles. So it's adaptability, it's active learning, it's accountability. Those are the A's. And then you have confidence, conflict resolution, communication, courage, and creativity. That's where we are on the 24. That's 8. So the kids have to memorize them in alphabetical order, and then we define them. And so one of my sons today, was making a comment about a player, and it was interesting because he was talking about delegation, which is a leadership skill that we haven't gone over yet.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're working with others and you're like, we were looking, when Russell Westbrook, because this is the exact play that was happening, we were watching some film and Russell Westbrook got like 4 rebounds and kicked it out. You remember when he was like MVP?
Oh yeah.
Excuse me. So he's kicking the ball out, getting the rebound, kicking. And so my son was looking at it as something different, but it was really, he was delegating, right? He was inspiring others and getting them to take action and giving them the ball. And
Mhm.
they kept missing the shot, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't give up on them. Now we look at it as, man, you could have scored that yourself or you could have taken it. But yes, he was trying to get some assists.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with getting those assists. Oh, you just want to pad your stats. Well, I can't pad my stats and my team can't score. But more importantly is when I look at Kyrie, I think Kyrie is magical with that basketball. But why is it that he doesn't like is there been a better skilled player that can finish better than Kyrie? More complicated finishes? Brad, have you seen anybody that can finish better than Kyrie?
Let's just say he's definitely high on my list.
How you but we don't look at him as the best of really. Well, we might say, oh, he's the best ball handler of all time, maybe, but we don't really give him like these extraordinary props and put him in these extraordinary conversations. And the reason why I think we don't is because he doesn't make players better on the court. And if he made more players better, like how do you leave Boston with those two amazing kids that are on that team?
Gotcha.
How do you not, if nobody can take the ball and you draw a double team every single time, how do you not, you know, those guys could have been averaging 40 points a game just because, and I'm being crazy when I say that, but just because Kyrie's navigation with the basketball, either he's going to get a layup or he's going to get an easy shot for himself. But if he draws that double team and triple team and those players are cutting and moving, but he doesn't think like that. He's getting his. And that to me, you know, I'm just a Kyrie fan, but I wanted to talk a little bit about leadership because a lot of these parents don't understand that when the kids can have a conversation like we just talked about delegation. Now, did Russell Westbrook have confidence in his teammates? I hope so, right? We don't necessarily know. I mean, there was a reason why he gave it to that particular guy to shoot the basketball. It wasn't like he was desperate. But all of these things have to be something that kids are introduced to in order for them to apply skills.
Yeah.
If you can't get through the 24 in order, I mean, that's cool. If you don't teach that, that's cool. But at the end of the day, you want all of your kids to have these attributes because you know that will help them to sustain. That's how I see it, you know. So what are some of the things that we can do, guys, to help parents? So obviously we have this call, this podcast, and we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to have different topics. But I want us to come up with like 5 things that parents should look for immediately before hiring somebody. Before you, like you talked about frequency or, you know, the relationship between the player. But what are 5 takeaways that parents can have right now that we think are really important? Brad, you go first. What was one takeaway? You're in an interview with a parent. What's the most important thing you're going to say to that family that you offer?
Well, I mean, if I was like, obviously marketing myself with a parent, basically I would kind of, I would definitely mention the fact that, hey, I've already taken, a kid from 10 years old to first team All Met.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys will grab a player that they look like that they think is a pretty good player, to help them build their resume on social media.
Okay, so you're saying
so I would make sure that they understood that, I could take a player, especially if I get him early enough, when he's not a very good player, and help him get, to that level.
okay.
Now obviously how along he goes in college. I mean, this particular player that I was talking about was Division I player and Division I starter. But what I'm saying is, obviously a lot depends on, how that player grows, how that player develops. Everybody doesn't develop the same, but there are, like I said, you mentioned that this being a competitive business, everybody's training now. Your high school coach is supplementing his income, some of them, by training. Your AAU coaches are supplementing their income by training and doing clinics. It's so many people out there doing it. I think your combination resume is something that maybe parents should look into as well. Did he play in college? Did he coach? You know, your combination of, you know, where you've coached, where you played. Well, you know, that kind of makes a difference because your knowledge is going to be different, you know, with regard to that resume.
So you said two things. So you said number one, they need to know that you've done this before, that this is not
Right,
your first
right,
rodeo.
right.
You've had players that you've developed and taken from, zero to hero, right?
Hmm.
That's number one. Number two, you said was that you need to have a resume so people know that you've been there as a player yourself.
Hmm.
Not You're not riding on somebody else's laurels. You actually have pedigree.
Right, right.
Okay. All right. So we got zero to hero, and we got pedigree. Nysear, go.
Skill versus drill. So a lot of the people that parents might see out there, the kids might see on the internet, they do a lot of repetition of an exercise, but it's not really getting into detail why they're doing it. They're not getting the research behind it. They're not learning pattern recognition. So I would definitely sell the point that, and I will definitely speak some terminology in the interview or meeting, whatever we call it, because I want parents to know that what I'm teaching is beyond on the court. This
Yeah.
can take you,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
as growing up as a young man, like this is well beyond basketball when it comes to it.
All right. So,
Yeah,
so hold on. So what I'm hearing you say is that there are life skills, whether you're a female or a male, that you're teaching, and you'll use basketball as basically the tool or the mechanism to be able to illustrate these life skills that are necessary.
right. Like basketball is just a mutual interest.
And then the second thing that I'm hearing you say is that um, the skill versus drill. You're saying that you have a curriculum of teaching why and how and when and where and what. And that's all like a prescription, like you would go into a doctor and they would set up a plan for you to get to a healthier level.
Right.
Is that okay? All right. So that's four. So zero to hero,
Hmm.
um, pedigree, curriculum, and life changing, because these are things that you'll take with you in every aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if there were a fifth thing that I would say, because you guys did so good, that was y'all took all my stuff. All right. From my perspective, when I think about everything that you guys just said, because I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. Um, when I'm sitting down with a parent, I want them to understand how important it is that we're in partnership, that we're going to have to, that I'm following as their trainer, as their mentor. I have room for growth. And it's my job to make sure that I care about their kids' goals and aspirations, and they need to know that it matters. And so that has to be authentic. I care. I'm in this. Your kid wants to play high school basketball, then I'm going to be whatever I think I need to have the right relationship with your son or daughter so that they can achieve your family goals. That's the partnership that I want to have.
Hmm.
So that would be the fifth thing. And I hope that that makes sense to all the parents. Guys, I think that this is a conversation that's not over, but parents need to really understand, and kids need to understand that they're getting to know us right now. right? So this is a way that they get to know Brad, Nysear, Coach Brandon. This is who we are, and we're going to be here every week, and Coach Brad, I hope you're willing to come back more, and we'll have different topics. But the whole idea is that when parents don't really know who we are, like they need to learn about your resume, coach. They need to learn like who you are. Nysear doesn't have the resume that you and I have, but Nysear, the thing that we didn't talk about is Nysear has knowledge. And sometimes that's a very dangerous thing because if we look at Magic Johnson, he wasn't the greatest coach. We take a look at Michael Jordan, he wasn't the greatest coach, right? So you can be a great player and have a great resume, but that's okay. Are you a mastermind? You can even take Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr wasn't necessarily the greatest player, or Phil Jackson, but really great coaches. So you can find your niche in other areas.
Absolutely.
And so getting to know us is important, and that's why we're here. So these parents can know that we're in this for something that's bigger than us, and that's the most valuable thing that they have on this planet, and that's their children. So that's how I want us to be, guys. And I think that you guys know me a little bit, and I know you a little bit, and these parents need to understand that we're different. So with that being said, what else y'all want to talk about? We got a few more. So, because we were going to talk about Imani Bates and talk about, kind of what's missing with him. But I think that's what show Nysear, because he was a #1 player in high school.
That's
Mhm.
right.
What happened? Why didn't he make it on the next level? And so we need to talk positive and affirmation about what he can do better, because he is talented, but talent will only take you so far.
Yeah.
So we got to have applied information, which becomes knowledge. And then that's what we can depend on, because in order to be a professional, you have to be able to apply skills when pressure is there. So, guys, I want to say thank you. I want to tell the community thank you. For anybody that is going to watch. It's our first show. Nobody knew about it, but it will be on our I Trained You channel. Brad, you're part of the I Trained You family. Hopefully you'll feel like we're part of the Brad Pinchback basketball player development family, and we're here to work together and make a big impact in these kids' lives for as long as we're capable. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to tell everybody, community, team here, I love you guys, whether you like it or not. So let's catch up. Same time next week. Let's keep doing it. I'll see you
Sounds
guys.
good. All right.